Welcome to this fireside chat from Kincardine United Church. During these chats, I try to deal with current events from a faith perspective, but sometimes I just chat about the way of Jesus. Nevertheless, I utilize some humor, some music, a video or two, and lots of imagery. Judy Rubik is on the other side of your screen, making the technology work smoothly while recording all of it. And once complete, Terry Boyd uploads the recording on our YouTube channel where you found us. So thank you both. I would be lost without you. This week, I'm going to let my love of puns fly freely. I remember making an occasional prank phone call when I was a teenager. Here's a foul version of that long ago practice. Even into my teens, I loved the Roadrunner cartoon show. I only occasionally felt sorry for the hapless coyote. I'm sure the coyote felt just like this after each failure. I love jokes because they always elevate my mood. However, puns are my favorite form of humor. Then there are those images that just seem silly, or humor that makes us giggle based on a misguided literal interpretation of posted signage. Or finally, humor based on common cultural sayings. While curiosity may have killed these four cats, have you ever been curious about the season of Lent? This is the season through which we currently travel. For example, Lent is supposed to last for 40 days, but why 40? The obvious answer is that 40 days is how long Jesus spent in the wilderness while fasting and be tempted by Satan. However, why did Jesus need to stay there for 40 days? Why not 35 or even 28? 40 is a special number in the Bible. When the flood came, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. When Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, they wandered through the Sinai wilderness for 40 years. During that time, Moses fasted for 40 days and nights on the mountain with God, receiving the two tablets bearing the 10 commandments. So, Christ's time in the desert is clearly meant to remind the Bible's readers of other periods, periods of great sacrifice and daunting hardship, before a new stage of spiritual life began. Digging deeper, there may also be a biological explanation for why biblical writers chose the number 40 for such periods of waiting and of transformation. The ancients believed that when women got pregnant, they would not become aware of the baby inside until 40 days had passed since conception. This was known as the quickening. Most women are also pregnant for 40 weeks before giving birth. That may be the original inspiration for the number 40, a time of difficulty and of testing, of getting really uncomfortable, and of always facing the possibility of death. And at the end, new life ushers forth. Lent is a 40-day period of testing, of discomfort, which leads to new life. We are invited to get quiet and introspective, making some decisions about what really matters and what can be discarded. Such discernment obviously escapes these folks. So, over the next 40 days, not counting Sundays, Lent invites us to get pregnant with our faith. Give yourself a chance to brood, to gestate, and to struggle a bit. It may make Easter Sunday that much more joyful. In this video of the One Voice Children's Choir singing a cover of Michael Bolton's song, Go the Distance, listen carefully to the lyrics. Maybe Lent can be a time of dreaming, a time when we hatch a vision of good news of our shared kinship. If we intentionally go the distance through Lent, studying, praying, fasting, and listening, we may find the meaning and purpose for which we have been longing.
I have often dreamed of a far-off place where a hero's welcome would be waiting for me,
where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, "This is where I'm meant to be."
I'll be there someday. I can go the distance. I will find my way. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. When I go the distance, I'll be right where I belong.
down an unknown road to embrace my fate. Though that road may wander, it will lead me to you, and 1,000 years will be worth the wait. It might take a lifetime, but somehow I'll see it through, and I won't look back. I can go the distance, and I'll stay on track. No, I won't accept defeat.
It's an uphill slope, but I won't lose hope till I go the distance and my journey is complete. But to look beyond the glory is the hardest part. For a hero's strength is measured by his heart. Go the distance. I won't look back. Like a shooting star.
Shooting star, I will go the distance. I will search the world. I will face its harms.
I don't care how far. I can go the distance till I find my hero's welcome
If we go inward during Lent, if our hero's welcome is to find ourselves inside God's arms, let's remember the miracle of our existence. Like Joni Mitchell wrote in her song Woodstock, we are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. We are carbon-based life forms. Carbon is only created through the massive explosion of a star into a supernova. The star's death means life for us. We are all connected. And even when we look inward during Lent, we're all connected. So here is what I would suggest we can do. Remember that we are dust, the substance of the stars, animated with the breath of life, uniquely formed in the image and likeness of divine love. authored in hope, forged in joy, the very good of very good. No accident we, this beloved, quickened dust, knit to love and be loved. Remember, we are dust. On the other hand, sometimes it feels like there are so many things in the world that we can't control. Earthquakes, floods, reality shows. But it's important to remember the things that we can control, like forgiveness, second chances, fresh starts. Because the one thing that changes the world from a lonely place to a beautiful place is love. Love in any of its forms, self-giving love gives us hope. In love, we find ourselves agreeing with John Wesley. I have often repented of judging too severely, but very seldom of being too merciful. Consider this. Somewhere there's a stranger who was kind to someone just because you were kind to them. Indeed, a soul that carries empathy is a soul that has survived enormous pain. When we consider one another with empathy, we find our connection without judgment. You see, the practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. Angry people cannot create a peaceful planet. Do we not call Jesus the Prince of Peace? If we follow the way of Jesus, then we are called to break the cycle of judgment. So be the person who breaks the cycle. If you were judged, choose understanding. If you were rejected, choose acceptance. If you were shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurt you. Let me show you what I mean. Father Greg Boyle, founder of Homeboy and Homegirl Industries, creates community with gang members in South Central LA without judgment. He has stated that we are not so much invited to declare our allegiance to a system of beliefs, but rather to a way of living, a way of loving, to a vision where we take seriously what Jesus took seriously. So what did Jesus take seriously? Inclusion, nonviolence, unconditional loving kindness, and compassionate acceptance. 5 years ago, Father Boyle was invited to speak at the convocation ceremony at Pepperdine University. He talks about his former alma mater, Gonzaga University, where he earned his BA. Now, I only know that university because they have great basketball teams. After graduating from Gonzaga, Father Boyle went on to earn his MA, his MDiv, and his STM. While he has much formal education, he is all heart. Let him show you where his heart lives in this powerful video about living the way of Jesus for even the most marginalized of people.
It's been the privilege of my life for 30 years to have been taught everything of value by gang members. And in the last few years, they've taught me how to text, and so I'm really grateful to them because I find it sure beats the heck out of actually talking to people. And I'm pretty dexterous at it, LOL and OMG and BTW. And the homies have taught me a new one, OHN, which apparently stands for, oh hell no. And I've been using that one quite a bit lately. My alma mater, Gonzaga University, called me and said they were going to have a big talk on a Tuesday night with 1,000 people. And so I said, sure. And they said, can you bring 2 homies with you? And I always pick homies who have never flown before, just for the thrill of seeing gang members panicked in the sky. I've never picked anybody more terrified of flying than this guy, Mario. He was just absolutely petrified. In fact, he was hyperventilating. And we hadn't even boarded the plane yet. And then our flight crew arrives, and I see 2 flight attendants, females, and they both have very large cups of Starbucks coffee, and they're schlepping up the front steps. And Mario goes, when are we going to board the plane? I said, as soon as they sober up the pilots. I should tell you that Mario, in our 30-year history at Homeboy, is the most tattooed individual who's ever worked there. His arms are all sleeved out, neck blackened with the name of his gang, head shaved, covered in tattoos, forehead, cheeks, chin, eyelids that say the end, so that when he's lying in his coffin, there's no doubt. And so I'd never been in public with him, and we're walking and people are like this and mothers are clutching their kids more closely. I'm thinking, wow, isn't that interesting? Because if you were to go to Homeboy on Monday and ask anybody there who's the kindest, most gentle soul who works there, they won't say me, they'll say Mario. He sells baked goods at the counter at our cafe. He's proof that only the soul that ventilates the world with tenderness has any chance of changing the world. So the nighttime talk comes and it's 1,000 people, and I invite them up to share their stories in front of all these people for 5 minutes each. They were terrified, but they did a good job. And honest to God, if their stories had been flames, you'd have to keep your distance, otherwise you'd get scorched. I invite them up for Q&A, and I said, yes, ma'am. And a woman stands and she says, yeah, I got a question. It's for Mario. First question out the gate. And Mario steps up to the microphone. He's a tall drink of water, skinny, and clutching the microphone, and he's terrified. Yes. And she says, well, you say you're a father and you have a son and a daughter who are about to enter their teenage years. What advice do you give them? What wisdom do you impart to them? And Mario clutches his microphone and he's just terrified and he's trembling and he's getting a hernia trying to come up with whatever the hell he's going to say when finally he blurts out, and he stops and he retreats back to his microphone clutching, terrified retreat. But he wants to get this whole sentence out. I just don't want my kids to turn out to be like me. And there's silence until the woman who asked the question stands, and now it's her turn to cry, and she says, why wouldn't you want your kids to turn out to be like you? You are loving, you are kind, you are gentle, you are wise. I hope your kids turn out to be like you. And 1,000 total perfect strangers stand, and they will not stop clapping. And all Mario can do is hold his face in his hand, so overwhelmed with emotion that this room full of people, strangers, had returned him to himself, and they were returned to themselves. And I think you go from here to stand with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop. And you stand with the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. And you stand with those whose dignity has been denied, and you stand with those whose burdens are more than they can bear, and you stand with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless. Make those voices heard.
Why wouldn't you want your kids to turn out like you? You are loving, you are kind, you are gentle, you are wise. I hope your kids turn out to be like you. And yet I know why it took that standing ovation by 1,000 total strangers to return Mario to himself while also returning the crowd to themselves. Mario thought his life in the gang had forever diseased his soul. He thought he was worthless. And he and the crowd learned together that we are all worthy of love. Grace. Sometimes the answer is to simply love, to drop comparison, to not need to be right, but to love, to see the other person for who they are, not what they aren't. Love is a beautiful gift. Love is healing. Love is grace. Love is not some small-minded ideal that we bypass on the way to weightier theological principles. Love is a PhD level Christianity. In our pursuit of Jesus, we will spend the rest of our lives learning to love more passionately, intimately, intentionally, and transformatively. There is no higher call. So, in this world of constant demands and expectations, let me lead you in a breath prayer written by Sheridan Voisey. Voisey is an author, speaker, and broadcaster based in Oxford, United Kingdom. Many of his books are published through Our Daily Bread Publishing. Let us begin his prayer with the first line. Lord God, fill me with your Spirit. During the rest of this prayer, pray the left side of the text as you breathe in. Pray the right side as you breathe out. It is meant to be slow. I receive your love and release my insecurity. I receive your joy and release my unhappiness. I receive your peace and release my anxiety. I receive your patience and release my impulsiveness. I receive your kindness and release my indifference. I receive your goodness and release my ungodliness. I receive your faithfulness and release my disloyalty. I receive your gentleness and release my severity. I receive your self-control and release my self-indulgence. Now that you have released what harms you while receiving what nurtures you, it is time for me to bid you farewell. Since I will be on holiday for the first 2 full weeks of March, the next Fireside Chat will be recorded on Wednesday, March 20th. Until then, I hope you will find Lent a transformative time of deepening, of connection, and of centering. Goodbye, and God bless.